Welcome to an updates episode of Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your horror host, Dom, and in today's episode, we're going to give some much needed updates on the podcast, social media, and beyond. After, I'm going to give like a segment, which could be a top, best, worst list, questions about like a world or universe in a piece of media, versus of two characters, or basically anything else I can come up with. And that'll be going forward on any of these update episodes. Then lastly, I've actually stayed pretty caught up on the films that have been releasing this year, and I really want to kind of give some recommendations on which ones I've been seeing and which ones I say like go check out or not to check out. I've been kind of posting on Threads, and that's going to be part of the social media update. Which ones I've been seeing, so you can always go check up on there. But without further ado, let's get straight into this updates. Alright, so lately I've been a little behind on getting the episodes out every week. So the first major thing I think I'm going to go with for this updates episode is I'm going to be changing the when it releases each episode from each week to every other week. It just gives me a little bit more time to get some of these episodes out, because there's a lot more that's going into these episodes than I was thinking that there was, especially with like Nightmare on Elm Street. It has a lot of, that series that we're on right now has a lot of information, and there's another series that I'm continuing with. It's another horror for kids. That one also has a lot of information that I'm parsing through to get for you guys. I'm also going to start so just gonna lay it all out on there so you know. So the next episode will be a horror for kids. After that, I'll probably get into the next episode for the Nightmare on Elm Street. After that, I'll probably start getting into, and I know I've been talking about this for a while now, but it's just because it's been such a big nut to try and crack, because I didn't know how to go about doing it, because there's just so much that goes into not only like reformatting the scripts for a book or a novel instead of for something like a piece of media that's film or a TV show. So I'm going to start getting into the Dark Towers series. So anyone who's out there that is into the Dark Towers, that's read the books, that love them, that even hate them, and you want to hear those episodes, we're going to get to them. It'll probably be later in the year. I think I had mentioned that before. But to start off, I need to get into some of the other stories that are connected, because I was thinking about how else I could do it. I could go book by book for the Dark Towers, and I feel like then you'd have to kind of pause every episode and explain like another book, because it connects to that, and you have to be like, well, what does that have to do with anything? And it's like, okay, it does have to do with this, because like it turns out that world that they're in, or that place, or that person, or that thing is from this other story. And sure, you don't really have to talk about it, but because Stephen King weaves all these stories together, and he did it in such a way that you kind of do have to talk about all these other stories. There's I think, let me see, I have all the episodes that I am thinking about doing. So there is going to be 10 episodes that will precede the Dark Towers. I'll probably do like one a month. So yeah, we won't get to the Dark Tower for a while, because there's just so much we have to get to. That first episode will be on Stephen King himself. because we need to talk about Stephen King. If you've read The Dark Towers, you know why. If you know anything about The Dark Towers, you'll understand why we have to go over Stephen King himself. Like, to start off with, constant readers know. And then from there, I'll probably release like a breakdown so you can kind of read what the books, if you never read them. Like, I'll say that these are going to be the essential books that you need to read in order to understand when we get to The Dark Tower. And I'll probably post that later and as we go. Then finally we'll get to, what I might do is I also might like start doing it and get into a couple of the books. And then as we go along, we can start doing The Dark Tower. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But man, trying to figure this out has been a long time coming. It's such a different take on the structure for the way that the episodes are put together than it has been before. Like I said, with film and movies and TV shows, it's completely different. I mean, even TV shows had to be structured differently than the movies. But, we'll get to it. So the next update is going to be on social media. So if you haven't been following, and just from what you hear when I do the outro, I let you know where you can follow us. It's going to be Instagram, Threads, TikTok. I don't do anything on X anymore, or Twitter, or whatever you call it, just because it's just, I just don't like the way that the platform has changed, and the people who took over it, obviously. And I mainly am doing things on Threads. Threads had seemed like it's the best for me. I'm able to go on there every day, every other day, and kind of post something, or reach out to people, talk to people, post on there, reply to things. Instagram, it's been hit or miss, just because I'm not great with social media. I wish that I had someone who could help out with that, but it's not a big deal. I'll continue to post things like about the episodes. I'm gonna try and post things like I see them here and there. I was trying to update do things like that one story about the three men who were dead in Kansas City. The Chiefs, they died and they were they couldn't find them, and then they found their bodies outside their friend's house. I'm trying to post things on that. I'm trying to also expand into other stuff too on there. Hopefully with TikTok. I know I haven't posted on TikTok in a while. It's just because this goes to a bigger reason of why the podcast also I haven't been able to, is I just switched jobs. I went from working at Fry's, which is a local grocery store here in Arizona, but it's Kroger. If you live outside of Arizona, Kroger's a nationwide brand. So if you have anything that's Kroger related out there, that's where I work, basically, or used to work. I just stopped working there just over a week ago, and now I'm going to be doing something that is, at least it is taking up more of my day. It is a little bit more exhaustive sometimes, but I found that with the days off that they're going to give me, it's a set schedule. I'll actually then also be able to take time later if I need to. And I think it works best for that, doing the kind of every 2 weeks, release an episode every 2 weeks. So don't expect one every week. Now it's going to be bi-weekly, I guess. And yeah, it's just because I'll have 2 days back to back, and I'll have a night and 2 days back to back in order to, I could probably, start night, continue writing through the next days. Then the next days, I can record or even record during that week, or you know what I mean. Like I'll finally have like a set time to do this, and instead of before it was very all over the place because the hours that they gave at Fry's were terrible. It was either, you know, I worked very early in the morning and I'd come home kind of exhausted from running around all day, to it would be the middle of the day and it just eats up time. And same thing, you just come home and the job that I was doing was just a little bit more exhaustive than like bagging things. I was doing like an order pickup, so I'm running around the whole store having to run things out, and you know, just even a couple hours of that here in Arizona, and now it's starting to get hot. It was just very, very exhaustive after just a couple hours. But besides all that, hopefully, you know, we'll get back to, you know, like, so this is now going to be on a bi-weekly schedule. So after this episode, I'm going to try and get next week. If there's not going to be next week, then if there's not going to be an episode next week, then just expect it the week after. And then from there, it won't be the next week. It'll be after. It'll be bi-weekly from then on. However I release it, if I release one next week or don't, it'll be bi-weekly from then, from when I do release one. But yeah, getting back to the social media thing, that was also another thing where, you know, TikTok, you know, you can't always do a TikTok all the time, and it takes a lot of work to do, and especially when, you know, I've been trying to collect stories for my family, and it's just so hard, especially if you've been watching me on TikTok. I was doing a series on like the stories of like my family's like hauntings. I'm going to try and get back to that. I'm going to try and get some stuff from them. I'm hopefully going to, you know, get like a more definitive, like I'm going to get some answers from some people about some stuff. And also I'm going to start posting more short reviews on there. Maybe I'll do like live, or not live, like maybe like live review, like right after I watch like a quick review of like some of the movies that I watch, because I'm getting, like I had stated earlier, I'm getting to see a lot of the movies that are coming out finally, because there's been past years where either I was working or I didn't have enough money, and or just not enough time, and you know, I can't see everything. But this year I've been able to see pretty much everything. I missed a couple of things, but it hasn't been anything too crazy. Some of these things I can catch up on, like on Prime, on Hulu, on Netflix. So that's the good part. But from everything I've seen, I want to start doing that too. But I've been doing it kind of on Threads, and that's where I've been posting most of all of this stuff. You know, when I got to see a couple of films, I would just like post on there. Hey, you know, like letting everyone know I saw them, like kind of what I quickly like thought about them. You know, answering any questions on there if I can. And then, so if you want, follow me on there. Follow on Threads. It's at Horrorbox Podcast. That's what's going to be on Instagram. That's what it's on Threads. That's what it's on TikTok. Sorry, it's all Horrorbox Podcast. Also, I may be doing some interviews with some people, so look out for that. If you do have any interviews that you want to set up with me, if you do have any recommendations for the podcast, if you have any stories that you want me to read, that you want me to discuss, if there's any like movies, any TV shows, any games, any tabletop games, if there's any like comics, if there's any manga, if there's anything you want me to talk about specifically, or you want me to go over, like I said, always, you know, you can DM me anywhere, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Let me know on there. You can also email horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com and let me know, you know, hey, I got this person that I know, they do another podcast in the area. Would you want to be on theirs and maybe they be on yours? You do like a cross promotion? Perfectly fine. I'd love that. or even if it was for some reason I didn't want to do that, I would let them know, what, why, where, or I would, everything would be set up with them. But please always reach out through there. That's the best way to get to me, or like I said, DM, because I always get the notifications about it and they come straight to me. So just let me know, and we can discuss anything. We can talk about anything. Maybe even expand beyond just like horror, which I've been trying to do. That's another update. Is hopefully we'll be able to start expanding into like more sci-fi, more fantasy, more action stuff, which is what I really want to do. I really want to start talking about more than just horror on here, especially because like there's a lot of movies and films that have horror elements that are not really horror, or that are horror but have like other genres, like Aliens obviously is a big one. It's sci-fi horror, and from there you could start talking about all like the things related to that, like Prometheus, or the new Aliens that's coming out, the show or the movie. And then from there also like Predator, we can get into that series and how it's like that's going again now with Prey. But yeah, I mean, it's just when everyone's quiet and not telling me or talking to me or giving me things that are out there that I have no idea about, I'm never going to talk about them. But if you're like, hey, I know this manga that is really good, I want you to talk about it, then I'll look at it, do the research, and if it's something that I'm like, yeah, I'm more than likely going to say yes because you requested it. But we'll just go straight from there, and I'll probably do like a little announcement like, hey, this is a recommended video or podcast episode. And then from there, let you know like, hey, stay tuned because that episode's coming out. And then even just moving from TikTok to YouTube, I want to start putting stuff on YouTube as well. Maybe like some of the episodes, start putting those onto YouTube. It's just I'm not sure how I want to do it. If I want to just do like a blank banner, or if I want to like edit in like photos or pictures or something. That's always like the thing. It's like, how much time do I want to put into that? Because it's like, okay, I gotta write a script, I gotta record the episode, I gotta edit everything, and then now an additional like, okay, I gotta create a video above that. And it's not too difficult if that was the only job I had. But unfortunately, right now, that's not how it is. But if you guys are interested, because I have had people ask me if this is on YouTube and that they would really like to check it out on there, and obviously it's not yet. But I'm thinking about putting it on there, and if you really want it, like, let me know. I'd really love the feedback. Like I said, for everything, for every episode, I've always said, let me know what you think. I want to hear what your guys' feedback is. If you think I ramble too much, if you think I don't go into things enough, if you think I'm a little too strict on like, sticking by a script or something, or do you think I go off too much? Honestly, all the feedback that I can get, I'd love to hear it. Also, I have a quick thing. Should I get a co-host? I mean, I know I'm more asking myself this, but I've been thinking more and more because there's a lot that goes into each episode, as I said, and it would just be a lot more helpful to have an extra person here, especially to bounce off of, to talk to. I feel like a lot of time, the things that I say and I talk about and I do really feels like I should be talking to someone, talking with someone, and talking about it. If you know anybody who's looking or is interested in getting into podcasting, that's into horror, you can always send me an email, DM me. Maybe we could talk about it. Let me know. I'm always open to hear what you got, what you know, what your knowledge is. maybe you don't have that much knowledge about it, but you're really willing to get into it, and you're willing to be like, oh, Dom, so what are we going to review this week? Then you go out of your way to watch it, and you go out of your way to take the time to, sit down and look at it. Awesome. That's what I like. People who are just engaged, and even if you didn't like it, you can come on, or like as the co-host, you'd come on and you'd be like, well, I know you're gonna praise it, Dom, but this is this and this and this, and it's like, well, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but whatever. I love to hear other people's opinions too. So, if there's anyone out there, please email me, horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com, or DM me, like I said, if you're interested. If you know anyone maybe that I should reach out to, or maybe that if you can get them in touch with me, however you want to do it, however you're thinking about it, just let me know. And that's going to be it for the updates for this episode. Let's move on to our recommendations of the movies that I've seen so far from this year. So since the beginning of this year and maybe like the end of last year, I've been actually able to catch up on the films that have been coming out and staying on top of it. I think I missed a couple here or there. I think it was Night Swim maybe, and Lisa Frankenstein. For the most part, I've seen just recently Abigail, Late Night with the Devil, which I reviewed, Immaculate, The First Omen, Imaginary, Ghostbusters. I know that's more of a kids, but I think that falls in line with the horror for kids. And I kind of want to give some recommendations of those ones. So let's start with the most recent one, Abigail. Highly, highly recommend going out and seeing it if you can, if it's still in theaters, because this movie was a surprise. Because the trailer made it look pretty good, but Radio Silence is really good. They did a great job with Scream. And they did a great job with Ready or Not, and I can't wait to see what they do with the sequel to Ready or Not, and what they do after this. Besides that one, honestly, I wish Melissa Barrera would be in more things. Not only is she a phenomenal actress, she's just amazing in this movie. She's so beautiful. Oh my God, I love her in this. She did a great job. I love that she's also kind of they're all villains-ish. Once you see the movie, you'll understand. And they're not great people, but she's trying her best, okay? And then I just love all the supporting actors too in it. Dan Stevens, he's been in a couple things here and there. If you've watched the Monster Universe, he's in that. He was just in Godzilla X Kong. He plays I forgot what he put the name of the guy, but he plays a funny character in it. And he was also in, if any of you have ever seen what's it called, Eurovision. He was in Eurovision, a song or the story of Fire Saga. God, I couldn't remember the name of the movie, but that movie is a pretty good movie, honestly. It's pretty funny. Will Ferrell, Rachel McAdams. Honestly, I highly recommend seeing that one too. It's on Netflix. It's pretty good. But like I said, he does a pretty good job. In the ones I've seen, the movies I've seen with him, he's done a pretty good job. And then Catherine Newton does a great job too. I think as the kind of nerdy. Well, not really. She's more of a hacker, but she's not really nerdy. She's really I guess a rich kid gone bad type of character. And then Kevin Durand, that he's from Lost, is what I know him from, and The Strain also. But he's been in a lot of things. He was in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He played the Blob. I forgot he was in Smoking Aces. Also, that's a pretty good one. If you haven't seen that one, honestly, highly recommend seeing that. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good actor. And then Angus Cloud, unfortunately, this movie it's dedicated to him. He passed away July 31st last year after completing the film, and it's just kind of sad. He was in Euphoria, and this is the role that he plays in this is a role you would expect Angus Cloud to have played, but unfortunately, this is his last film. He died of an accidental drug overdose, and it's just kind of sad because he like I said, he did a pretty good job in this, and I would love to have seen him in other things, other roles. And guys, just remember with drugs, like when you start getting past like certain things like weed and mushrooms and stuff like that, I think that's when you need to like reach out to people, because you're obviously looking for something that's beyond your reach. You're looking for something else, and I think you need help. Not every single person, but for the most part, like that's what I always say, especially because the person who did this podcast with me originally, he passed away from a drug overdose, and just kind of sad that like people just like let themselves get to that point where they don't reach out and say that they need help, and instead they turn to drugs, and it just doesn't work out. It's just really bad. But besides that, highly recommend Abigail. Go see it now, please, because I know it has been not struggling in theaters, but it's barely the second week, and I think it's barely going to be surpassing its budget. And this is a film I think that needs to get past its budget and to show that, like, hey, these smaller films, these films that actually have really good ideas put to them, can do a lot of money still. But I don't know what it is. It's like everyone wants to go see these. It's obviously because of ticket prices, but, I don't know. Try and go see this film if you can. I did a review of Late Night with the Devil. Go check that one out. Highly recommend it. That too. It was really good. There is some issues with the AI art in the film. I went over that in my review too. I don't think you need to get hung up with it because it is just a couple of seconds. They did use AI art to generate. Then they had artists go over it. Yes, I know. It's slippery slope. I talked about it in the episode. But honestly, it's on Shudder now. Check it out. If you have Shudder, if you have AMC, you can, when you have Shudder through there, highly recommend seeing it. Watch it when it's like dark and it's spooky out. Especially now, before it starts getting hot, and you start thinking about like all that spooky stuff, and you start thinking about how are we going to cool ourselves down. But Late Night with the Devil, David Dastmalchian, great job. Two films that came out kind of back to back and kind of deal with similar subjects. I'm not going to spoil either one. But Immaculate and The First Omen. Okay, I'm not an Omen fan at all, right? Like, I've never been interested in that series. I think I've seen parts of the Omen, and it was just like, okay, whatever. But this one, The First Omen, I didn't even want to go see it. And my friend was just like, let's go see it. And I was like, all right, because literally that was about it that was out. And honestly, I was surprised at how good it was. It's not like, oh man, like Abigail or Late Night with the Devil, that good. But it just surprised me. Like, you know what? It wasn't just like the typical story. I kind of knew where it was going to go. At a certain point, I was like, oh, that's what, that person's that thing. Oh, okay. And where it was going to get to. But honestly, you know what? when it was released for streaming, I highly recommend it. It's probably a good one to stream. If you do like the Omen series, go see it in theaters. But if you're not like a huge fan of the Omen, I would just recommend waiting till it's on somewhere for you to stream it. But like, I do recommend it. Like, it surprised me. Like Immaculate. Honestly, wasn't sure if I was gonna like Immaculate either. I honestly thought Immaculate was gonna go one way. Then it kind of flips the script on that kind of genre, that kind of Omen-esque story is, and it makes it about another thing, and it's like, that's a little bit more terrifying. I think Immaculate was a little bit better than First Omen. First Omen kind of seemed like it, like you knew where it was going to go. Immaculate was like, what the fuck? And then it gets to the end and you're like, what the F? What the fuck? Like, what am I watching? And then it ends and you're like, damn, dude, like, she went through hell. But it was really good. Like, Sydney Sweeney, honestly, I want her to be in more stuff too. Not just because she's Sydney Sweeney, but as an actress, she did not need to go like this hardcore for this film, but she puts in like the acting chops for this film. And I'm like, well, see, like, if you can show them, even when you're doing these like other films, that it's like, this is why you're here. It's not because oh, look, I'm just another pretty face. I'm here because I can do the work. I can do the job. I know what I'm doing. That's when people will like you more than just for being the pretty face. And I think that's what she deserves, because she does do a great job. She puts in the work for it. And, I think it's kind of disappointing that, people only want to go see the film just because, oh, Sydney Sweeney's in it. It's like, but you should be wanting to see the film because it's a film you want to see. Whatever. But it was really good. Like I said, really good. Highly recommend it. Imaginary, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I know there was a lot of reviews that were saying it was like terrible, the worst movie ever. And it came out earlier this year. I saw it when I came back from my birthday vacation in March. Basically, it was Coraline, like the movie. Coraline is already a movie, but like the live action movie, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't terrible. And there's an interesting like world that they built with this, especially with the way it ends. I'm not gonna say, okay, this isn't gonna be a recommendation, because I'm gonna just say, like, honestly, you can skip it. But I think if they do another one, you should watch this one. There's things where it's like, okay, and then like, okay, and then okay, that's interesting, that's scary right there. And then, whoa, that's kind of scary. And then it gets into a point where it's like, there's so much more you could have done with this like imaginary world she goes to at the end, where they chase her into, where that's what it's the imaginary friends from. And I feel like that could be explored further, and that could make for a better film later. But honestly, with this one, I mean, if it's on, watch it. If you got nothing else to watch, I guess watch it. I think like kids who are getting into horror might like it. It's not like anything like too extreme or too like gross or over the top or nudity or anything like that. So I think it might be good for that. Like if your kid's like, oh, I want to watch something scary, but you don't want to watch something too scary. Like it's Coraline, but in live action. So if they're okay with watching Coraline, which I know can be like, if your kid's a little bit more sensitive, could be taken as like, well, this is a little too scary. I feel like this one, it doesn't do anything too like creepy, anything too until I think like towards the end, maybe they could be, but honestly, it's not really that bad. You could always just like shut it off. It's not. I mean, it's not even worth shutting off. Or you know what I mean? Like it's fine. It's not anything too crazy. And let's just go straight into the next one too. Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. I'm gonna kind of say the same thing. It wasn't terrible. It was better than I thought it would be. Although I don't know what I think it would. I don't know what I thought it would have been. I just wish, like, I get, like, oh, okay, it's about the girl, what's her name? I know it's McKenna Grace, but I forgot her name in the film. And she's trying to, like, prove that, like, you know, oh, I may be a kid, but I'm smarter than everybody. I can do everything that everybody does. And it's like, yeah, but you're still too young. And then, like, the Paul Rudd's character being like, oh, you can call me Dad. And it's like, weird. And then, you know, just, like, the family dynamics. But there was, like, one review where I was reading or watching or something, and they were saying, like, there's too many people. There's too many things going on. There's just, like, too many plot lines, too many this and that. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, how... But then I see, I'm like, I think I get what they mean. Like, there is a lot going on that they kind of just try and wrap up together in the end with the bow with like, oh, we're the Ghostbusters. We defeated them. Yeah. And it's like, no, wait. Like, these are like serious issues. You should probably talk about that one or this one. And I think I feel like if it had been done a little bit better, and I think they're gonna probably just make another one, and maybe they'll kind of resolve it with that. But there's like some serious issues with like capturing the ghosts that they didn't plan for. But I think it'll kind of be resolved for the next one. I just feel like this one was just like the bad guy was just kind of it was there. Yep. Oh, it's a bad guy. To honestly, I feel like it needs like. I know that the first one and then Ghostbusters Afterlife, was that the third one? It was like going back to Gozer and all that with like the Stay Puft Marshmallow and all the like the evil demon dogs, which I liked, but I think they need a like villain. I think they need a villain to fight. And I think, because it's like the Ghostbusters, I think what they should do for either to end it or to continue it, I think for the next one it should be a two-parter. And it should be, they should just borrow from the TV show, the character, the Sam Hain. I know it's not Sam Hain. I know it's supposed to be Samhain. But in the show it's Sam Hain because, I don't know, because people didn't know how to pronounce it back then. And you bring in like this kind of like pumpkin-headed, like Halloween-esque character who is causing terror, bringing back these ghosts and stuff. And you could say maybe, like, I don't know, something like that, right? Now the Ghostbusters got to take him down. And then you can kind of leave off on like maybe he's captured all the original Ghostbusters and he's going to make them into ghosts so that he can create his own ghost-busting team. Oh, that actually would be pretty cool. Like the Human Busters, they're going around capturing humans. That actually might be pretty cool. I mean, it sounds a little ridiculous, but you know what I mean. Like, I feel like I have better ideas than what they're turning out. But this is a good one for like the kids. I think if your kids are like still like wanting to do like horror, but they're like, oh, we can't do anything beyond like I'm trying to think of like what's a good like okay, like if like Goosebumps scared them, or Are You Afraid? I know these are 90s references, but like shows like that, like Scooby-Doo or Courage or something scared them. That's still like 2000s references, God. But you know what I mean? Like if like some of like the kids horror stuff kind of gets them a little spooked. Still, I think Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I think it's for them. It's like, I mean, Ghostbusters is obviously more kid friendly anyways. So I think that one would work for them. Honestly, if you're not a big Ghostbusters fan and not like a little kid, I would just go ahead and skip this. Like it's fine. Like I always talk about how I don't really want to review things that I don't want to have like good things to say about. Right. Very rarely will I review something that I'm like, don't go see this, or I didn't really like it. Ghostbusters is, like I said, it's fine. My nephew really loves Ghostbusters. He loved the first two, and even with the all female cast, Ghostbusters. But he liked the last one too. He likes all. He loved this one. So there's an audience for it. It's just it's not as big. I think if Ghostbusters had come out maybe even like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago, I think it would have done okay. But I think now it's like it's getting. I think they need to move past the old guys. Like they keep bringing them back. If you're gonna bring him back, then like I like what they did with Ernie Hudson's character, where he was mainly like the financier for the Ghostbusters, right? He didn't put on the equipment. He didn't put on the jumpsuit or anything. He just was like, I've been running the Ghostbusters Institute or whatever. And it's just kind of like, wait, so you didn't invite these guys to come help out? The guys who brought back like into the consciousness and the zeitgeist of this world? You didn't even bring them into the fold of like everything that you've been developing and you've been working on. Instead, you let them go back to the old, rundown Ghostbusters firehouse. I get that it's iconic, but like, why didn't you build up from there? Why don't you just buy the block and build it from there? Or why don't you if you have all this money to build all this other stuff, why don't you just renovate it? Yeah, so if you don't watch it, it's fine. If you do, hey, good for you. But I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. I only did because I was kind of forced to. So there's that. But those are my recommendations from at least from what's come out this year so far that I've seen. I'll probably do another dump like that when I do another updates episode. For this segment, I think I will talk about a question that was asked of a friend at work, at my new job. He asked me, without watching all these horror films and watching all the things, what is the last movie that actually like scared you? That actually like made you like, feel afraid, give you kind of like either nightmares, something actually made you like, oh, really, really scared to either go home or go to sleep or even scared you when you were in the theater. And, I was like, that's a really good question. And I had to really sit and think about it because not a lot of horror films like scare. I mean, yeah, I'll get like scared from like a jump scare or something, right? Like that. That always gets me. But a movie that, fundamentally makes me feel scared and like, like creeped out or terrified or something, just like what actually has scared me, since from being like a little kid to now, what was the last thing that actually like really scared me, right? So I was thinking about it and I was like, well, I can't really think of anything that really, really scared me that badly. And when I sat and thought about it, I was like, well, Insidious really did scare me when it first came out, the very first Insidious. If you've watched my TikToks and or listened to the podcast prior, you know that I talked about my family being really haunted and the houses that we lived in being very haunted. And so when I saw that at midnight, coming home to a very dark house, and I think I talked about it when the Insidious. There's an episode I did where I did review all the Insidiouses, and coming home to a dark house with no lights on and you have to traverse this house where you've seen other people have talked about other things that they've heard and seen in this house, And, my friend was laughing because, like, I'm so scared to just walk into the front door. And it's that really scared me. Then I thought about it some more, and I was like, you know what? The Babadook, actually, there's a part in that actually, because when I was watching it with my friend, we were watching in his room, it was dark, all the lights off. There's a scene where, she's in bed, and she can hear him coming into the room, and she sees just like the shadowy figure as the door opens, or I don't even know if you see him right there, and she pulls the covers over, and, you just hear him come in, and, like the creak, and someone walking in, that actually scared me. I was like, man, see, like, that's how you scare somebody. That's how you get real scares. It's like, I feel like that's so real than any other of the, like, scares that I've seen, or things that are supposed to be scary in other media. And then when we were talking about another film, we were talking about Skinamarink, and I was like, you know what, that movie honestly did also scare me, but it was scary in, like, that feeling of, and I talked about it. I kind of reviewed Skinamarink in a Oops All Scary episode, because there's not a lot to talk about. It would have been a really short episode. There's not a lot to talk about in Skinamarink. Not a lot really happens. So there really isn't really an episode that, or like there was no reason to make a longer episode for it. But watching that movie, if you watch it for the first time, or even again, in a room, you have no distractions, you have the lights off, it's dark, and you just watch that, I feel like it's like those YouTube videos of, like, analog horror. You get that kind of feeling of, like, nostalgia, but then also, like, it's wrapped in this kind of, like, loneliness and, like, emptiness, but then it's like this feeling of, I think I talked about it in the episode, I remember waking up when I was a kid, like, if I was sleeping, like, if I was a little kid, I got scared, and I was sleeping in my mom and dad's room in, like, their bed or whatever, and my mom had to take my dad to work, and I would wake up when they were gone, and I remember, like, she would leave, like, the hall light on, and you wake up, and the only light is that light coming in, like a slant through the hallway door across your bed, the bed. And all of a sudden, the two people that you were feeling safe with are gone. And you don't know where they are. You're waking up, so you don't know where they are. You don't know where they went to. You didn't, and then you're a kid, you don't understand, like, oh, she just went to go take him to work. And it's the middle of the night, maybe, like, or in the early morning, maybe like 5 or 6 or maybe like 4 in the morning, somewhere around there, where it's still dark and the light hasn't come yet, but it's still dark enough for you to think, like, it's still late at night, and you just get that empty feeling of, like, where did everyone go? It's that terrifying feeling of, like, everyone's gone. And that's what Skinamarink, like, that's how I feel when I watch that film. And so, like, if you count that, then yeah, then it scared me. Because there were times where I was kind of, like, looking over my shoulder. I was on my computer watching, it's just like, what's over there? What's in that corner? But I asked you guys, what, and I'm probably going to post this on maybe on Instagram too, but on Threads. What scares you? Like, what really scares you? What film or book or maybe a song? Maybe there's a TV show. Maybe there's some kind of piece. What piece of media really scared you more recently? Or even as a kid? I mean, or any time. What scared you enough for you to be like, to like actually feel that thrill of, like, that scared me. I don't, like, want to watch that again, or I don't want to see that, or, like, you do want to see it again because you want to see, like, if it scares you again, and you just want to know if you get that feeling again. What scares you? What scared you? That's what I want to know. So if you're out there, you're listening to this, you can send it back on Instagram. You can on Threads. I'll probably post it on all of them, TikTok too. But just let me know, like, what scares you. or what scared you. But for now, do you have any recommendations? Have you seen any of the films that I mentioned today? Is my opinion bad? Probably. But who here has the podcast? Okay, huh? We want to thank all of you for listening. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. If you have any personal or fictional, paranormal, supernatural, or unexplained stories, we'd love to read them on the podcast. Please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can follow on our socials on Instagram. Why did I say it like that? Threads, TikTok, @Horrorbox Podcast. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/Horrorbox Podcast. It really helps out. We'll see you next time and hear what comes out from the horror box.